Hi, I'm Emily Chang. I'm the CEO of McCann World Group in China and the author of the book, The Spare Room. Tune into this episode to hear why it's important as a leader to define what really pisses you off. Listen to the 100-Year-Old Mind Hack from Scott Fitzgerald. Oh, and learn about the Aramaic root of a very important word, which Dov just happened to know off the top of his head.
Welcome back to our delicious conversation with Emily Chang. She is the CEO of McCann World Group, one of the big four global marketing firms who have integrated network of advertising agencies in over 120 countries. She is also the author of, if you're watching this on video, that book right over a corner, over a shoulder there, called The Spare Room. And really, this is an incredible conversation with an amazing human being who is really talking about how do we bring social legacy into the workforce and into our lives, and how do we were talking about at the end of the part one, we were talking about this idea, this really important piece of defining your offense, what it is you're offended by, with what it is you offer, what are your resources, and the importance of that. We talked about what the book was about, and that the book actually gives you a structure that walks you through for you to find your own social legacy. And this led you, of course, into doing a TED Talk, and that's become very popular, and it's led and driven into your leadership. So tell us first about how the TED Talk came about, because you've lived in different parts of the world, you speak different languages. So talk to us about how that started.
So it is a TEDx talk. And if you're looking for it online, I will tell you, it was loaded poorly. So it's got a big break in it. So I've had my people fix it, and you can find the full one on the website, unfortunately. But I had the privilege of doing this TEDx talk, and there are so many TEDx's now. One thing I will say is I feel very grateful, though at the time it was very challenging, that I did TEDx Shanghai, because if you do the full TEDx experience, this little stack of books next to me are sort of my big experiences, starting with the Rising Tide book by Procter & Gamble, Steve Jobs for Apple, Onward by Howard Schultz, and TEDx, because it really was quite a meaningful experience. It was tough. They really challenge you and push you and say, what is the idea we're sharing? No, that's not deep enough. What is the thing you really want to say? And I give credit to that experience for coming up with that offer and offense construct, and even for defining the social legacy, which was not something I had until I got to the point of, yeah, I have to talk about this in 14 minutes succinctly, and hopefully inspire people with such clarity of thought that they walk away and want to do something about it.
I've been scheduled twice, and it's not happened for multiple reasons. And I have many, many friends who've done TEDx talks. And I'm trying to remember who the author is who said, "I'm sorry that this piece is so long. If you wanted something shorter, I would have needed more time."
Exactly.
Right. And it's because, like, doing it into what used to be 19 minutes, which is now often 9, 11 minutes, 13 minutes, depending on where it's at, it is torturous to try and get your piece down to that. Hit home, engage people is very, very difficult. And, the fact that you did it, for me, is always very inspiring, that you were able to get it down to this is what it's about and engage the audience. That, in many ways, for me, is a lot about what leadership is. Leadership is, I'm coming in with my big ideas. Here comes the trucks, the whole parade of trucks of ideas and stuff that we're going to bring today. But you got to bring it down to a very succinct message. Talk to us about how this, because you talked about how this is first was something external in your personal life, and it became part of your leadership. Talk to us about how it became part of leadership and what it's done to leadership for you.
Yeah, well, I've always brought kids, including my birth daughter, into work, because I think there's something about work family integration that's really important. It builds a deeper understanding of who I am. So when I need to leave home early, or if I can't get home in time for something, there's an empathy at home. My daughter, I remember when she was very young, would say, why can't you come home, mommy? And I would say, well, remember the lady who sits opposite me? She needs my help tonight. And she would say, oh, it puts a face and a human behind what mommy does at work. So that really helps at home and equally at work. When you have a title or you have an office, you're already overcoming these walls, right? That are
Yes.
naturally built mentally. And so breaking down those walls, I think is actually important to do with intentionality, because when people can see the human behind the wall, that's when the trust can be built. And that's when we can build a real connection. And when they need help, they'll reach out instead of saying, I don't want to be vulnerable in front of my boss, or I don't want to admit I need something, or I don't know how to do something. So that intention has been really helpful when somebody can see me as a mom. And especially when they can see that I am mothering a child who I didn't give birth to and who probably won't stay with me forever, they'll kind of be like, maybe look twice at me and say, okay, maybe there's something a little bit different about her. And maybe I can trust her, because if she's going to go help this person, then surely she'll help me. That was the beginning of realizing trying to integrate my own work and family actually helped people see me in a different way. And it helped me in my own leadership style.
You know, you and I talked about this in our previous conversation, that I think that oftentimes leaders at a top level are afraid of vulnerability.
Yes.
My vulnerability would be my weakness. It's an old school thing, but it's nonetheless, it's still very much there. And, and you are, I mean, you've been with, so there's the books behind you. You've been with Procter and Gamble. You've been with Starbucks. You've been with Apple. Huge organizations, and you're the CEO. You're the big cheese in these roles. It seems like for many people, that's going to be the least vulnerable position. You're not going to show any vulnerability. And you've done an extraordinary job of being very vulnerable. Talk to us about how that is specifically you talked about people seeing you as a mom, but did you have to overcome that, is what I'm asking, I guess,
Yeah.
did you feel that, ooh, I can't bring that vulnerability to work?
Thank you for asking the question, because it is something I've grappled with for the last decade. This was before Brene Brown ever wrote Dare to Lead. So
Yep.
vulnerability really wasn't even a word in the workplace, in the professional world. And I grappled with it because I like who I am. I think
Mhm.
I'm highly imperfect, but I think the way I resonate with people is what works for me. So on LinkedIn, when I started really blogging, I think that was at IHG, Intercontinental Hotels Group, but between Apple and Starbucks. I worked there as a chief commercial officer, and I had a team of about 5,200 people. So I started realizing I need to over communicate and constantly reach out in different forms and different ways to my own team. And when I realized I was kind of saying the same thing week on week, or a theme would start to emerge and then a new theme would come to light, I thought, let me just blog about it on LinkedIn in an absolute contribution, nothing in it for me kind of mindset. And that's when I really kind of became a little more authentic about who I am. And it did occur to me, not only internally, but others did mention, that's not a very professional post. Or I would not have a graphic, so I would draw one and then just take a picture of it and use that as my key visual for whatever I was posting on. And yeah, I mean, I'm not a good artist either. So there were moments where I
Fabulous.
thought, yeah, maybe I'm diminishing myself. Maybe I'm coming across as too unprofessional. Maybe I'm coming across as too human. But ultimately, Brene Brown did help with that when she introduced a whole new vernacular. But also, I think I just came to terms with, but this is what's working for me. This is what my teams like about me. And this is why people are willing to invest themselves and come work on my business. So I'm just going to keep with it.
Did you get pushback from your higher ups?
I have not. I think that's a real gift. Yeah, I think it's really
Because
important.
sorry, go on.
No, I think it's really important to pick who you work for. The company culture is a piece of it. Even more important and more tangibly is your direct manager, because you cannot feel comfort for the spirit. You cannot bring your whole self to work if they don't buy into who you are.
Because a lot of that stuff, I mean, because I'm a consultant, I go around the world, I work with these big companies and these organizations, And oftentimes, I mean, even the CEO is like, yep, I'm totally on board with this. And then they have to go into the boardroom and they have to meet with the shareholders. And it's like, no, we profit is what matters. And it's in the next quarter, as
Mhm.
opposed to we're building a culture and a company around this, that this, this is going to need 2-3 years. And they're like, well, if we're not going to bring the numbers up in the next quarter. And it's
Yeah.
like, I'm dealing with these guys who are like, guys is a generic term,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
male, who are saying, I really want to do this, but I've got so much I'm pushing. Everybody in my team's behind it. Everybody supports me in it. But when I go up there, it's a different story. That's why I
Mm.
wanted to ask you about that, because that is a huge challenge.
It is. And I think it's the power of and. It's not either or. It is not, I must drive profit and therefore I'm throwing purpose out the window, or I
Right.
have to deliver sales and therefore I'm not going to demonstrate care for my teams. I think it was Scott Fitzgerald who said the test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposed ideas in the mind at the same time. And I
Absolutely.
think that power of and can unlock a different level of leadership if I don't feel like I'm constantly trading off, but I'm looking for the intersection between two seemingly opposed ideas.
And talking to ideas that sort of might seem like they go together to some people, not to me, but is this idea, and it's part of the subtitle of your book, which
Mm,
is authentic leader, right? This and
mm,
that, and you're talking about legacy and purpose.
yeah.
Okay, so we've got legacy and purpose, and
Mhm.
authentic, and oftentimes authentic is this. People will say things like, "Yeah, I know I'm a bit of an ass, but at least I'm authentic about it." Right? I'm kind of rude, but at least I'm authentic about it. That's not what I think of authentic as. And I've kind of pushed against that because it's become so generic. And I don't find anything you're doing as generic. So talk to us a little bit about that. The difference between authentic and purpose, if there's a difference for you.
I think there is. And let me touch on the authentic piece because I agree with you. Saying I'm being authentic is not an excuse for bad behavior.
Right.
It does not mean you should embrace me from all my assholeness because I'm being me.
Right.
Be a better
Exactly.
you, dude. Be a better you.
Exactly. Exactly. You're an authentic asshole. That doesn't mean I want to work with you.
Right, right. So yeah, the subtitle is Live a More Intentional Life and Lead
Yes.
with Authentic Purpose. And yes, what is authentic purpose? So to me, authenticity is, it has to be unpacked specifically. To me, it is your character that underpins your behavior. Right. So if you're an asshole, that is your character that underpins your behavior. And the
Right.
second way I talk about it is maybe it's a sincereness of being. So it's not an excuse for being a jerk. It is, what is your deepest sincerity and how does that describe how you want to operate every day? And then purpose to me sits on the other side of that to some degree. If authenticity is the character that underpins your behavior, purpose is the intention that underpins your action.
Mm,
And if sincereness of being defines your own authenticity, then your reason for being is your purpose.
that's a very clear. I like that. That's a nice way to put it, because it still leaves the room to examine the behavior that is showing up in my character, and then
Yeah.
ask, is that aligned with the purpose that I'm moving towards? And I like that a lot. I think that that's often what's missed is, like I said, the I'm an a-hole and that's me being authentic is not okay for me anyway. It's just not
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because that might be sincerely who you are, but then against what purpose? What's
Yeah,
the
exactly.
intention
Yeah.
underpinning that action?
Yeah. Like if you're not willing to question that, like, okay, if you want to be that, it's great, but where does it take you? Is it
Yeah.
taking you to where you really want to go? If the answer is no to that, then maybe a little bit of self-development, self-examination, self-awareness might be useful.
Yeah.
Just a little
Yeah.
bit.
Think so.
Yeah, just a little bit. So let's taking this deeper and further into this, into leadership. How has how has it impacted loyalty? So, bringing this, this very personal part of your life into your very professional part of your life, has it changed the way that your teams respond to you? I mean, we've got the Great Resignation. By the
Mhm.
way, in case people are not realizing it, the Great Resignation is global. It's not, people think of it as a first world thing. Vietnam, which is not a democratic republic. People are not showing up for work. They've gone back to the villages and left the factories. In China, there's a shortage of tech workers. In India, there's a shortage of tech workers. People are moving away from work. How is it impacting loyalty inside of what you're doing inside of your organization?
Well, I think the first thing is we have to be able to answer that question with data, right?
Yes.
So it's important for me that we always implement, wherever I've worked, at least a biannual anonymous survey where everybody has a chance to voice their true opinion. And it's important what we ask and that we're consistent with the questions so we can track whether we're having an impact or not over time. The
Right.
first question that's always important is, would you recommend that your friends work here? Right? Just like your NPS score. Same
Yeah.
thing. I think that's super important. The other couple of things we always look at is, do I feel my well-being is respected and cared for? Because if I feel that, that's an articulation of comfort for your spirit,
Yes.
then you feel comfortable coming to work. I care about who you are and how you feel and that you are well. There are a couple of other things that we always look at is, are you inspired by the vision and mission? Well, if we haven't articulated as leaders what our vision and mission is, you can't even answer the question. But then, are you inspired by it? Are you on board? Is this the bus that you choose to ride? And if the answer to those couple questions are yes, the other ones I think will follow. So the first piece is, loyalty comes when I see improvement against those key metrics.
Right.
Then I think there's moving away from the quantitative to the qualitative. Do people follow you? You know,
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about this. We just talked about the power of and. There's this intersection of humble and confident, which I
Yes.
think is something that people don't always embrace as consistent. They feel like an oxymoron, but I don't think they are. I think about Martin Luther King Jr., for instance, humble guy, very confident guy. And
Mm-hmm.
that combination, I think, can inspire followership. I think I am humble because I think there are a lot of things I do really poorly and I'm always learning. And yet I am also a confident leader. And I think when you can be those two things, you can inspire a degree of loyalty because people want a confident leader, but they don't want a jerk. They want someone who's confident and yet humble enough to learn from them or to ask their opinion and seriously want to hear what they have to say and find the best solution by embracing tension. One thing I love talking with you is, Dov, you challenge people. You'll kind of say, but what does that really mean? Or is that just fluff or puffery? And I think that's the kind of person, like we say, iron sharpens iron. I want to be around people who are iron, because if they're
Yes.
too sharp and cutting, they'll hurt me. If they're
Mm-hmm.
too soft, they won't sharpen me and make me better.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I mean, I think that one of the things that I push with the leaders I guide is that conflict repressed expands. So
Mm.
let's not repress it. Let's
Mhm.
engage with it. Let's bring it forward. As you said, iron sharpening iron, and that willingness to do that, to say, here's what I'm bringing forward, and I want to hear what you've got against it and where you've got to go for it. And if there's nobody got anything against it, I'm off. There's something wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not coming strong enough here. And if everybody's against it, then I'm coming wrong, because it's in. And I think that oftentimes, it's, as you said a few minutes ago, oftentimes we have this difficulty with understanding that the two things can exist together. I deeply believe in being humble, but I deeply believe in being confident.
Mhm.
And I don't want to be confident about my uh pretending that I'm confident about something. I want to be confident about what I know. People say to me, I'll use an example. I'll say, is this humble? And they'll say, what? And I'll say, okay, ask me if I'm a good speaker. And they'll say, are you a good speaker? And I go, no, I'm fantastic. And I say, is that humble? And they go, no. I go, yes, it is. And they go, how is that humble? Because I understand that I have worked my craft for 30 odd years. I
Mhm,
am really good at it, and I never stopped learning.
mhm.
To this day, I've never stopped learning. And the humble of it is that I understand the Aramaic of that word, which means God first, or the creative force first. So I'm only as good as me getting out of the way and letting it flow through me. That makes me, I'm honoring that force that flows through me, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So I'm confident about it. I'm very secure about it, but I'm also out of the way. And I also say that if I get in the way, I guarantee I won't be very good. I
Mhm.
know that. So it's that we got to hold those two pieces together. I can be extremely generous, but I also got great boundaries. And I think
Mm.
that this is the key thing about leadership. And it really speaks to your point of the book, which is this offense and offer, which is two separate, seemingly opposing forces. And if you stand on one side, well, I've got all these things, but I don't know what to do with it. Shut up and start whining. Or, oh, well, this is not very good, and I wish somebody would fix it. Shut up and do something with it. And you're bringing these two seemingly opposites into the same space where they are a synergy of something, where the two parts equal something much greater. And I love that about what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Can we all just pause and acknowledge that you just knew the Aramaic background of the word humble? I just learned something. It's amazing.
Well, thank you. That's the problem with being a polymath. There's all kinds of weird things I learned. But so this is why it's important that we've got to embrace the separate parts of things and bring them together. And that often I think that's where the greatest things come. We look at politics in a very either or way rather than an and way. People talk about America are the greatest country on earth, and I'm like, yeah, you got to look at both sides, right? You want to look at countries that are communist and go, oh, they're terrible. Well, hold on a minute, is that true? It may be, but maybe there's some things that are really great. And I think that if you look at all these things in this way, I know many people who severely like Donald Trump, and I say, and I know also people who severely dislike Donald Trump, and I say, who did more for the women's movement than Donald Trump? 1 million women on the day he was elected, on the day he took office, marched on Washington. I don't know anybody who brought 1 million women together. So oftentimes it's the darkness that brings forward the light, and that's my point. So the darkness in your context of what you're talking about is the offense,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
you're asking us to read the book, find your offense, and where can that bring your light forward? And I just love that.
Oh, thank you. I think the last thing is you mentioned loyalty, and we talked about the quantitative, right? But there's also the
Yes.
qualitative. I think the
Yeah.
qualitative is the passion that probably everyone's hearing from both of us right now. And it inspires followership, whether it's the dark or it's the light. And probably in most of us, it's a combination of the both. I
Absolutely.
think something I feel incredibly proud of and deeply humbled by is the people who continue with me. So my EA has worked with me at 3 different companies. When I resigned from IHG to go to Starbucks, she resigned the same day and said, I'll come with you. And now she's with me at McKenna. It's not just somebody comes with you. It is they love you. They've got your back the way you've got theirs, and you are committed to growing them. So now she's also the head of office administration. People have asked me, you're in the creative agency world now. You run a number of agencies. How can you bring people from your past jobs? Well, I think if people have the passion, the hunger, we have the connection, and we support each other, skills are teachable.
Yeah.
And the fact that they are loyal and they want to come with me and I'm equally loyal to them, oh my God, what a privilege to get
Yeah.
to work with people I love and trust.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, that's such a great lesson in leadership for all of us, for absolutely all of us. As we come to the end, we're coming to the end of the show, and I want to ask you, you've worked for these big firms, you've worked around the world, you work with, offices that are around the world. What do you see as the future of leadership?
Hmm.
Like, what is there on that horizon that maybe we're not paying enough attention to? what is it that's coming down that we need to be more aware of?
I think maybe it's the power of and. It's that juxtaposition that you can be hard and you can be soft, that you can drive profit and you're equally accountable to ensuring a deep sense of purpose. That you practically, from a skill standpoint, in the world of commercialization, you are well versed in the ability to create an online experience as well as an offline experience. I think the world has segmented into niches in some degree. I'm good at this, not that. You look at the creative world, I'm really good at these big films and these storytelling. But yeah, I mean, I don't really know what TikTok does or how do I play in that space. You can't afford it anymore. Everything is integrated. So you have to be able to do both. You have to be confident because people want to know that you are a leader that they can rely on. And you have to be humble because if you don't listen or you don't respect those around you, if you're not hungry to learn, people don't want to be with you. So you have to figure out how to do both.
Yeah, I think that's a great insight for all of us to have. It is back to you, as you said, that and the hard, the soft, the confident, the humble, all those ands that we think of as either or, but are actually ands. That's a great place for us to finish. As we finish, I would love for you to please tell our audience where they can find out more about you, your book, and all the places that they can reach out to you and your resources.
Sure. The one place you can go is social-legacy.com. I blog there weekly. You can reach out to me. I actively engage with everyone who comes on the site. And you can find me on socials at thespareroom.emilychang, Instagram and Facebook. And of course,
Fabulous.
always LinkedIn.
Of course. Emily, it's been a pleasure and an honor. I hope you'll stay with us to the end. Thank you so much for everything that you've shared. It has been, as always, a joy. I love talking to you. It's wonderful to meet a leader who actually understands purpose in a very profound way, rather than it was this is what we're supposed to do this week, but you actually are living that purpose and bringing it to your team. I'm deeply grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And for you, dear leader, remember that you can hang out with other conscious leaders. You can chat about this episode or any past episodes inside of our Facebook or LinkedIn groups. Just look for the Leadership and Loyalty Podcast. It doesn't matter how successful you are. If your employees and your customers don't understand what gives your company meaning, you're only working at a fraction of your true capability. To find out how you can hire me, Dov Baron, as a speaker or leadership strategist for yourself or your organization, simply go to dovbaron.com. That's DOVBARON.com, because unified actualized meaning is the one single monolithic difference between mediocrity and greatness for all individuals and companies. I want to thank you for sharing the show with everybody you know. Till next time, stay curious, my friends. Stay curious about your social legacy, about, as Emily put it, what is your offer and your offense. It's not either or, it's and. I'm Dov Baron. I'm here to assist you tapping into your deepest meaning to reach that next level of clarity, focus, purpose, and profit in your business, your life, and your leadership impact. I am out.